What's up YouTube, Daryl here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you, as I put out on the poll, a World Chalice deck profile in 2021. And this time I've gone without the whole Kaiju waterfront, and I'm trying to make it as pure as possible and keep it story related as well. There will be a combo at the end, very basic, very simple, but if you want to see more World Chalice combos and test hands, then all you need to do is smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Or of course, if you just want to show your appreciation, to see more World Chalice videos as we go. With all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get straight into today's profile and start with the deck list of World Chalice. Okay, so long time coming, let's get into the deck list. We're playing, of course, triple Lee, the World Chalice Fairy, triple World Legacy World Chalice, double World Chalice Guard Dragon, double Chosen by the World Chalice, double Beckoned by the World Chalice, one single Crowned by the World Chalice, triple Agent of Destruction, Agent of Creation Venus, triple Mystical Shine Baal, and double Exodius, alongside double Parallel Aziz. And then because we want to compete as best as possible, we play a hand trap lineup of triple Ash and double Ghost Ogre. For the spells, we play triple Transmodify, triple Unexpected Die, one Emergency Teleport, one World Legacy's Heart, one Instant Fusion, which technically counts as a second Call by the Grave, alongside triple Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine, and a single World Legacy Sorrows. For the extra deck, we are playing, for the World Chalice cards, double Unduct, the World Chalice Dragon, single Ib, single Aram, one Lib, and a single Ningrisu. We are then playing one Link Spider to kind of help you with that, and the other Link monsters we play are the IP Masquerena, the Access Code Talker, alongside Mech Knight Crusader Avramax, Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, one Cyruja Skuldred, one Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, and then you've got Millennium Eyes Restrict, basically Called by the Grave, and one Daigusto Emerald. So, now to go over the cards in depth. Of course, we start off with triple Lee, the World Chalice Fairy. Now, this is probably one of the most important cards, or secondary only to, of course, Venus. Now, what makes this card so good is if it is normal or special, you get to add a World Chalice monster from your deck to your hand. So that is going to allow you to add, of course, the World Chalice itself. You can send one monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, while this and then add this card from the graveyard to the hand. Only use this effect, each effect once per turn. So you don't want your main normal summon wants to be Venus, which is why you play Transmodify, because then obviously Transmodify off of a Shine Ball, or of course off of Lee is the best way of doing it, goes into Venus. Now, by going from Lee into Venus, what that allows you to do is that gives you instant access to your Chalice, which then, as long as you turn one of the Shine Balls into an Unduct, allows you to get your additional normal. Now, the one big downside of this, and I can kind of see why it's the way it is, but what this should have said is this could have said like a World Chalice card or a World Chalice monster, because then what you could have done is turn Fairy into this. This gives you an additional normal summon, so then you just tribute this off for the Chalice. But thankfully it doesn't, because it helps with Dark Magician, regardless of the point. Then, of course, we go on to the next card of the deck, which is triple World Legacy World Chalice. Technically the first World Legacy card, beautiful. A card you actually want to use more times than not. So if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck, except during a damage step, you can tribute this card and send that monster to the graveyard, or monsters. Only use this effect once per turn, and only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this face-up normal summoned or set card leaves the field, you can special summon 2 World Chalice monsters from your deck, except itself. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard and add one World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. Now, it's a shame that the second effect is except the turn it's sent to the graveyard. Otherwise, that would have worked out like really nicely. It would have given you a bit more synergy, a bit more speed as well. But take nothing away. The idea is that you want to normal summon into this. You then want to get it off the board. And then by getting it off the board, that's then going to take you through and give you the ability of getting the 2 World Chalice from the deck. Now, 9 out of 10, the ideal scenario is that you're going to be sending this... You're going to be linking this off with another monster you can go straight into your link to. But there are times when you don't have the ability to do that, and that's where you kind of want to be looking into a Almirage. Now, it really depends on what the hands are like. I've specifically built this deck to not have to try and rely on that kind of route of play. But take nothing away, this card is insane, absolutely brilliant for the deck. Gives it so much resource, and then by giving it 2 resource, that then allows you to link climb higher. And this is what this deck is designed to do. It's designed to link climb. We've then got 2 World Chalice Guard Dragon. Now, I'm only playing 2. I've tried to maintain the story throughout the deck, but also maintain a reasonable sized deck as well. 2, I think, is more than enough. So when a card or effect is activated that targets your linked monster, quick effect, you can send this card from the hand or field to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card, which is really, really nice. You can banish this card from the graveyard, then target 1 normal monster in your graveyard, and special summon it in defense position to a zone a linked monster points to. Only use this effect once per turn. Now, it's a nice hand trap protection, but the chances are you're going to be going through this throughout the combos and throughout the plays, getting it to the graveyard, and then being able to use it as a free extender. 2 is more than enough. It's consistently searchable. Other than that, it doesn't really add too much to the deck. Like, you could put in a Relinquish Animal, you could put in a Link Karibo, but you really, like, at no point do you want to normal summon this card. Like, all you want to do is get into the graveyard, and then for it to be an extender, you still need to have a link zone available to you. So 2 has worked out nicely for me, and I think 2 is all you need. Then for the vanillas, I'll do these all together. You've got double Chosen by the World Chalice, double Beckoned by the World Chalice, and then the 1 Crowned by the World Chalice. Now, you don't actually have to play Crowned, and you can, if you want to, you can cut these ratios down. But, to me, it's not a World Chalice deck if you're not playing the full storyline. So I've put the full storyline in. Crowned is probably the first one that a lot of people do cut. It is a 42 card deck, so you can easily cut that down if you want to. You could put Reinforcement of the Arm in the deck. I don't think it needs it. We do play Emergency Teleport because this is a Psychic, so it becomes a free extender, which is why we play E-Tele but not Rota, because we want the special summon for free as an extender rather than just searching out of vanilla. But again, this is a level 4 for your rank 4 plays as well. Other than that, they're just going to be used to your link climb abilities, and then being able to get an additional normal summon from the hand or a special summon from the hand when you go through the World Chalice link monsters. Moving on to the best card in the deck, and annoyingly, it's not a World Chalice card. I would love to think that World Chalice could get a card that is exactly like Agent of Creation Venus, but at this point of the story, and if you haven't seen the World Chalice story or read the World Chalice story, check it out on our channel. We did a whole video on it. But at this point in the story, there's not really any more characters you can add that could replace what Venus does for the deck. And what Venus does, and why she is so important, is you pay 500 life points to special summon a mystical shine ball from your hand or deck. It is not once per turn at all, so if you recycle the shine ball, she can do it all again as long as you have life points to pay. Now, why that is so important is because the shine balls are normals and they are fairies. So what that allows you to do is turn these into Umducts, which gives you an additional normal summon, or you can use them to help you link climb higher. And again, looking back at when this deck first came out, being able to link climb was very important for the deck. And there wasn't really a lot of staple cards. There wasn't really a lot of other abilities to help you link climb. But the fact that you still, and I guarantee you, every single World Chalice deck you look at online will be playing Venus, it shows how well the deck synergizes, or this card synergizes with the deck. Now, as you can see, the Shine Ball is a level 2 fairy, Venus is a level 3 fairy, and Lee is a level 2 fairy. So that is where all of it comes into play and where you can be able to use Transmodify to get in. So technically, with Transmodify, as long as you combo off with Lee or Shine Ball, you have more ways of getting to Venus. The biggest downside of this entire engine is the fact that you will probably, 9 times more than not, open up with Mystical Shine Ball more than Venus, which is really annoying. Venus can summon it from the hand, but then you're technically neg 1, which is something you want to try and avoid. That's where Saruja comes in, because Saruja just goes, you know what, I'm putting it back into the deck. I'm waiting, and you can even timestamp this moment. I reckon one of the future pop cards will have to be something like banish 6 cards from your extra deck, or banish X amount of cards, draw X amount, and put X amount back. Now that card would be amazing because it helps you put the bricks back into the deck, and I would absolutely love it. But it's basically like Saruja, but in a pot spell. Then for the other monsters we've got, now I've got 2 Exodius. Now I'm not playing Firewall in this build, as you saw from the deck list at the start, because technically Firewall at this moment in time is not legal for at least another 4 weeks. Because you'll be looking, the time of recording this is the 21st of March, and Firewall doesn't come into play until 15th or I believe 18th of April. I will do another update once that happens. I still don't think Firewall is amazing in this deck. You'll definitely play it because it allows you to... it's very easy to co-link it, so you're going to have non-target bounce, and it also allows you to recycle some of your materials in grave. But I've gone with Exodius in this build because not only does it count as an extender, not only can it become technically with our lineup an 8,000 beta, but it also helps you recycle your materials. It puts all cards in your grave back into the deck. Now obviously it only gains 1,000 for every normal monster returned, but it does allow you to reshuffle your deck because you do burn through your resources quite quickly. Another card you could use is Pot of Avarice, but the reason I'm not playing that is purely because that only shuffles back 5, whereas this will shuffle back all cards, and it counts as an extender. So it's whether you value the 2 draws above the extender and the full shuffle back. For 3 extenders, we've got Parallel XEs. This gives you rank 4 access, but it also gives you very, very easy and free link fodder. The chances are you're probably going to be using it as link fodder more times than not, but it's just an incredibly good card. You're constantly linking. You've got Saruja to dig for it. You've got the ability to search it. And in my opinion, this is just as equivalent as the Exodius. You've got just as much chance of opening up this as you do Exodius, so there's no reason of saying, right, play this, but don't play this, or play that, don't play that. I think both of them are great extenders, both of them are consistent, both of them are powerful, and they both help you get your ultimate goal, which in this deck is to link climb. For the final cards we do, or for the final monsters anyway, we've got Triple Ash Blossom and Double Ogre. This is any hand trap lineup you want. You adapt it to your locals. These can be Crows, these can be Veilers, this can be Imperms, it could be Droplets, it can be anything you want down to what you play. Now a card a lot of people did play before I'll get into the spells and traps is Swing of Memories. Swing of Memories was a nice little one to revive. It's basically like an additional form of Monster Reborn for your vanillas. But we do have Monster Reborn, so you could easily play that without even worrying. But because it's all about resource management, that's where the Exodius comes in. And I'd much rather bring Exodius to the board than have to rely on a one-off Monster Reborn. But yes, hand traps, completely up to you whether you actually want to play them, whether you want to adapt them. This is the kind of area that if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to play Pure Go second. I want to have Kaijus. I'm not just going to play Gamma Seal and kind of go through there, but you'd actually play a Kaiju engine. And in my opinion, you'd probably play 3 Waterfront and 2 Gamma Seal or anything like that, because the whole idea is you put so many cards into your graveyard that when you get to Saruja, Saruja then lets you special summon the Gamma Seal, and the Gamma Seal becomes a form of negation. But keep in mind, the type of cards you want to be stopping with a Gamma Seal protection is going to be like Nibiru's. And by the time you get to Saruja, the chances are Nibiru is going to smash you in the face. So keep that in mind as well. So that's it for the monster lineup. Very good balance between starters, extenders, and just general hand traps. It takes out about 50% just over of the main deck itself. But the idea is that you want to be able to link climb high, you want to climb as much as you possibly can. Venus is your main go-to card, but then you settle back onto Lee, and then after Lee, that's when you start looking at your other cards as well. Speaking of Lee and Venus, you've got triple Transmodify. This is probably right now the best deck for this card. So this one, you basically send one face-up monster you control to the graveyard and special summon from the deck one monster with the same type and attribute as that monster in the graveyard, but 1 level higher. So obviously you're going to be sending Lee, you're going to send the Shine Ball, you're going to bring out Venus. Venus is then going to pay 500 to extend the board, and that's when you're going to be able to link climb higher. The biggest issue, if you had not already noticed, it's less relevant if your Venus gets ashed herself, because I'll just do it again. But if this gets ashed, that's when you're in a bit of trouble, because it sends the face-up monster you control to the graveyard as cost. So if you're trying to ash this is where you go, hot damn, that sucks. So to help kind of deter your opponent from ashing this, and if they don't play and they don't know about the World Chalice, they probably aren't going to know to ash this. So you can bait out the ashes with, of course, your Unexpected Die. Now, for this card, in my opinion, you play free or you don't bother, because you need it at free. You need to see it early on. If you see this later on in the game when you've already got monsters on the board, it's a completely 100% dead card. So you need to see it early on. And the reason you need to see it early on is it gives you a free extender. So it basically counts as any card you want. You could technically go unexpected die, give you a monster, and then if you've got Chalice in hand, happy, good to go. So very important with unexpected die, and it's also the reason that we play E-Telly. E-Telly is just a free extender. Now obviously if E-Telly was at free, you'd put that at free, you'd cut unexpected die out completely, nice and easy. We've then got the one World Legacy Heart. Like I mentioned, this one lets you target 2 World Chalice monsters in your graveyard with different names and add them to the hand. And then if your linked monster would be destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead. Now the graveyard protection it does come up, but it's not the end of the world. The fact it protects all of your linked monsters is great. So it doesn't specifically protect a World Chalice linked monster. Any linked monster is protected, but it's all about management, resource management. So adding 2 World Chalice back from the grave to the hand gives you management resource, whether you're going to be using them to extend further off of your link summons, or whether you're going to be using them as some form of hand trap interruption with the guard dragon, or just next play extensions. We've then got Call by the Grave and Instant Fusion. Now the reason I'm showing both of these together is they pretty much serve the exact same job. Like I said, it is so damaging if you get ashed. At the moment, Call by the Grave is only at 1. If it was at 3, then you wouldn't even play Instant Fusion, you'd take that out completely. But because it's so important to set up your form of protection, Instant Fusion now, with the fact you can just put a fusion monster way out of the way, is incredibly important and becomes a second Call by the Grave. Now, the reason I don't play this particular combo in all of my decks that rely on Call by the Grave is this one specifically needs to get going. It very, very does fear a hand trap in the form of Veiler, but more specifically Ash Blossom. And then specifically with this deck in comparison to the other deck, it's got a little bit of wiggle room in the extra deck. So being able to use Millennium Eyes Restrict as your extender, as well as protector from the hand trap, that once you've got past hand traps, you don't even need to worry. You then just go, right, okay, cool, Millennium Eyes Restrict, you've done your job, you've deterred my opponent from playing any cards I need them to or don't want them to. Now I'm going to link you off to make my Saruja or to help me link climb higher. Then for the trap cards, we've got triple Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine, free extender, and it's a vanilla. So basically what it allows you to do is you can turn any one of these into, of course, an Umdut, the World Chalice Dragon. So if you were to open up this plus Chalice, you activate this, turn this into Umduct. Umduct will give you an additional normal summon, so you use the additional normal summon right there and then to tribute off the Umduct if you want to. That will then give you Chalice, and then you have the ability of getting Chalice off the board because you can probably get your additional normal summon or your normal summon onto the board, link it away, off you go. That lets you link climb even higher. That again is another reason why Almirage can be very, very good for the extra deck, purely for those very, very rare scenarios. And then finally, we've got the one World Legacy Sorrow. You don't want to be hyping too much of the tracks because you want these to be as live and as consistent as possible. But you can easily search the World Legacy Sorrow, and it's incredibly cool as well because when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or monster effect while you control a co-linked monster or monsters, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Searchable counter trap off of Lib. That's all you need to know. Searchable counter trap. The other cards I've seen people play is the World Legacy, the one that lets you link during your opponent's turn. It's a cool card, but to be totally honest, I'd rather not. I don't want to try and go out of my way to try and link during my opponent's turn. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to make IP Masquerena. There's no point in messing around with that. There's no middle ground. You just go, right, cool, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then obviously the idea is that you want to be able to resolve these, then get your Sorrows, and then you're setting up your Sorrows, you're setting up the ability for rank 4s, or the ability to go into your Unduct and do full combo, and then you're going to Sorrows to protect. And the idea is that in the past, this deck was like a U-Link deck, and it was like, cool, lock my opponent out of using the extra deck, great. Now that is not as big of a thing, so what you want to try and do is you want to be able to try and build up as many of your co-linked monsters as possible. Make sure that your Appaloosa, your IP Masquerenas, your Ningrisus, your Ibs, anything you want, as long as they're all co-linked or they all have some form of protection on the board, that then gives you the ability of going Sorrows. So you've got protection on the board in general with Appaloosa, you've then got a counter trap that your opponent's going to struggle to deal with, and then if you're backing that up with your hand traps or anything like that, it really does give you an incredibly powerful chance to deal with what your opponent is trying to produce, and it also gives you a very competitive edge, especially with a deck that has gone a little bit old. And what I mean by that is a lot of people forget about World Chalice, they forget what it can do, and then when they face it, they're like, oh, yeah, I remember this deck, I didn't realise it can now do this in 2021. So that's it for the traps. Now onto the extra deck, and this is where it gets kind of cool. So we were rocking around with the, I'll go with Link Spider first. So we've got the one Link Spider, you turn Shine Ball into this, you turn any of your World Chalice vanillas into this, and then this can special summon down one of the vanillas to the board. So it becomes a free Link 2 just by normal summoning a vanilla and special summoning a vanilla from the hand. Now, it can be a third Umduct, but one thing you also do need to keep in mind as well is this one can't use a token, whereas this one can. So if you do get Nibiru'd and you hold onto a vanilla, you just get to go, okay, Nibiru token into Link Spider special summon down the vanilla, bam, straight away you go into the Link 2. You can continue to plank your plays. Umduct, amazing. One normal monster, accept a token. There's a reason I play this card in Dark Magician. Absolutely love it. So during your main phase, you can normal summon one World Chalice monster in addition to your normal summon or set. Perfect. You can only gain this effect once per turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster this card points to, destroy that monster, but destroy that opponent's monster. If this card is sent from the hand, or sorry, not hand, field to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Chalice monster from your hand. Now, a lot of people actually forget about his second effect. So there are a lot of times where people get a little bit lazy. They'll put a monster there, point into it, and you just go, okay, Umduct, and it's a card you can't get past, or it's a card that's got negates, or it's a card that is going to cause you issues as you try to link climb. You just go, okay, Umduct, attack, and they're like, alright, fine, I'll take the damage, and you go, cool, Umduct, destroy it, and they're like, oh, wait, and it's like, no, you've kind of already missed your window, you've let it happen. So because they forget about the second effect. This card is very, very good, it's nuts, I love it, and do not sleep on the second effect. Make sure you remember the second effect, because it will actually win you games, believe it or not. We've then got, of course, the one Ib, the one Lib, one Ib, one Lib, and one Arum. Now, Ib, of course, is the good old-fashioned two monsters with different types and attributes. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. Your opponent cannot target this linked card with card effects. If a monster or monsters this card points to would be destroyed by card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Chalice monster from your hand. Nice. And then, of course, Lib, the start of the story, end of the story, requires two monsters, nice and generic, can only be link summoned while you have a World Legacy card in your graveyard. Now, let's be honest, this is a World Chalice deck. If you do not have Chalice in the graveyard, you might be doing something a little bit wrong. But very consistent to make that happen. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your main phase, you can set one World Legacy spell or trap directly from your deck, but it cannot be activated the turn while you have no World Legacy monsters in the graveyard. So let me get it straight. I can set the counter trap from my deck for free? Yes, you can! For free! If anyone doesn't get that reference, you need to go and watch Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler. Funny as hell. But yes, you get to set it down for free with absolutely nothing. And you can technically, if it was a spell, which is why you can play World Legacy Succession, it could be activated the exact same turn because, again, you should have a World Legacy in your graveyard. Nice and easy. If this Link Summon card is sent from the sent to the graveyard as link material, shuffle one card on the field into the deck. So if you're going second, it is nice non-target spot removal. Beautiful. And then, of course, we've got Arum, the World Chalice Bladesmaster. Requires two World Chalice monsters, so it's a little bit more specific. But gains 300 attack for each World Legacy monster in your graveyard with a different name. So you're only ever really going to have one in that form because you're going to have Chalice in there. So it can go up to a 2300. You can tribute one World Chalice monster this card points to, then target one other monster in your graveyard. Special summon it to a zone this card points to. So you tribute a World Chalice, you summon back anything. So, let's put it in this way. If Lib is in the graveyard, and you've got a World Chalice because you've got the special summon off of Ib to the zone it points to, you go effect, tribute that, bring back Lib. What have you got straight away? You've got the ability for a 2-negate Appaloosa. You've got the ability to pretty much link climb into any link 4 you want straight away. It's nuts and I love it. You can only use this effect once per turn. And then if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, special summon one World Chalice monster from your hand. Nice. And then, of course, we've got the Mac Daddy, brother of Ib, of course, Ningrisu, the World Chalice Warrior. Requires 2+ link monsters if this card is link summoned. Draw cards equal to the number of World Chalice monsters this card points to. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn, you can send one card from each player's field to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Chalice monster from your hand. Now, there was a good old-fashioned combo where you did actually get these all linked, and you ended up drawing like 2 or 3 cards. Really, really nuts. Love it, but it's not as relevant right now because you are going to be able to use other cards to do that. We'll round off the link monsters before I go on to the Fusion and XYZ. Because you've got the one IP Masquerena. It requires 2 non-link monsters. So it's very easy to make, especially when you're looking around and playing around with a lot of vanillas. It can be easily made. You might want to go for a more generic link 2 that just requires 2 monsters, because then you're not relying on having no link monsters. But she's still incredibly important. She's a nice interruption. The only other card that I'd play instead of this is something like Phoenix or Unicorn. Then carrying on, you've got a lot of link 4s in this one. You actually play a lot of high level links, but you are link climbing. So you've got access code for just out and out destruction. So Arum is a fire, Ningrisu is an earth, and Ib is a water. So straight away you're giving yourself 3 attributes in the graveyard. The access code can just pop and go. And access code is one of them cards that the idea behind it is, as a grind game or in the later game, as long as you can get 4 cards on the board or the ability to make access code, you make him nice and easy, you beef him up, and you pretty much win you the game. If you don't have access code, then of course you can put your money on Mech Knight Crusader Avramax. And then you also, of course, have Appaloosa, your Bow of the Goddess. And then following off from that, you do have your Saruja Skuldred. Now, the one you're probably going to go into consistently most is these 2. But these are your defensive cards, and then slightly Avramax as well. And then access code is your aggressive card. So in the form of this, your Avramax would probably become your firewall going further forward, but you are a link climb deck, so you want to make sure you have as easy to make link monsters as possible with the deck to go that route. And then finally, we've got the Underworld of the Goddess. Again, just because you're generally link climbing quite easily, but also because of the IP Masquerena. This card has won me so many games in general right now. It's absolutely nuts because a lot of people forget about it. And they're like, oh, right, IP Masquerena is clearly going to go into Unicorn or Phoenix. And you go, IP Masquerena. And they go, yeah, all right, whatever. And you go, cool. So I'm going to use IP Masquerena plus my 2 monsters plus the monsters you have. Yes, this does specifically require effect monsters, which is a bit of a drawback. But again, you want to be using your opponent's monsters to make this card. That's the whole idea behind it. And that's why it's incredibly powerful. It's not as important. You can easily take it out for any kind of generic rank 4s, like Abyss Dweller, Tornado Dragon, you name it. But it's just to show you the type of link climb abilities you have. Finishing off the extra deck, of course, we've got the one Daigusto Emerald and the one Millennium Eyes Restrict. Now, Daigusto Emerald doesn't only act as a very small jar or pot of avarice by shuffling 3 cards back and letting you draw 1, but it also has the ability to revive a vanilla monster from the graveyard. So he becomes a rank 4 free extender as well. So because it covers 2 jobs of extender and of course resource management, which is quite what Exodius does, that's why we're playing Emerald. And then Millennium Eyes Restrict is just, again, another form of Call by the Grave. It's a little bit restricted because you need to open up your 1-of Instant Fusion to get to your 1-of Millennium Eyes Restrict. But then when you look at Instant Fusion as technically a second Call by, you'd be playing it. So if Call by was at 2, then you'd be playing 2 Call by and 1 Instant Fusion. If not, because it's just that important. So keep in mind that is the Instant Fusion is basically Call by the Grave. That is what you've got to see it as. That is the nearest equivalent as possible for the deck. So that's it for the deck list. I will now try and present to you all a full-on combo. Very standard, very simple, but just a general link climb combo for World Chalice so that you can watch this, get the profile, get the deck list, and then see how the deck should operate and how it kind of plays with ideal starting hands. So I will reset the board state and be back in a second. Okay, so now I'm going to pretty much show you a very, very standard play for the deck. Now, it has a lot of variations, so the variations pretty much kind of go with, you need the ability, or ultimately what you need is you need Venus in your hand, plus your World Legacy World Chalice. Now, obviously, what you can do here is this combo can also become Transmodify plus your Lee as well, because then Lee becomes your Venus, and then you also search out your World Chalice. So there's a lot of different variations of the route you can go. We're just going to go for the most basic route possible, which is opening up these 2 cards right here. Now, we will be having 3 other cards in our hand. Now, if they are extenders, great. If they're not, it's not the end of the world. But what you also want to kind of keep in mind is the one thing you don't want in your hand is your Shine Balls, because that is where you're going to neg the most. So we're just going to put 3 random cards in the hand. most of these are going to be searched anyway, and then you're probably going to be making a Saruja just to refix these anyway. So, the initial plan behind this is you're going to normal summon your Venus. I'm going to actually try and use the spell and trap card zones just so I can show you the full board, because it's very rare that we're going to use the actual spell and trap zones for spells and traps. So you normal summon your Venus, you then trigger Venus's effect 3 times to give you the mystical Shine Balls. Now this is where Exodius comes in, this is where Pot of Avarice comes in, stuff like that, because it resets the grave state and it allows you to do the exact same play again with Venus. So what you're going to do straight away is you're going to start off by linking away one of the Shine Balls and you're going to go into Umduct. Now Umduct instantly gives you an additional normal summon of a World Chalice monster, so that gives you the ability to tribute off a Shine Ball and summon down your World Legacy World Chalice. Now, the way this combo would change is if you've got a Link Spider, sorry, not a Link Spider, if you have another Vanilla in your hand, so for example if you had a Chosen by the World Chalice, as long as you've got multiple as well, because keep in mind you're going to be summoned off this, what you could do is you could turn this into a Link Spider. Link Spider would come here, special summon a monster, a Vanilla down here, and then you turn that Vanilla into Umduct, which basically ultimately leaves you with an additional monster on the board. Now we're just going to keep it very short, sweet and simple. Now instantly you've got a Link 4 here. Now the safest route, depending on what else you have in your hand, is going to be Appaloosa, because then Appaloosa allows you to negate monster effects, and that's where you're allowed to climb a little bit further. So you just buy straight away, by going all 4 of these into a Appaloosa, what this allows you to do is you're able to chain block as well. So if you did have, where are you? So you've got Umduct the World Chalice, and of course you've got your World Chalice World Legacy. So what you want to try and do here is you want to go chain link 1 of the World Chalice, chain link 2 of Umduct. If you have another World Chalice in your hand, it will special summon it down. But there's also, the idea is you're going to protect your World Chalice from being ashed. And if this was, of course, was a Saruja, because you use 4 monsters with different names, again, you would then build up the chains and go from that. So, just by playing out exactly what we've got, now these are the other 3 cards we've got in our hand, but they're pretty much inconsequential, it's just to show that we've got the monsters in the hand. So off the back of this, the very minimum you're going to get is you're going to get 2 cards off of your World Chalice. Now the 2 cards you want to ideally go for are going to be your effect monsters. So you'd be going for the Guard Dragon. You can go for a Vanilla or something else if you want to. But the other more important one you want to go for is your Lee. Now the reason you go for your Lee is Lee would then search you out a World Chalice card, which can be the Guard Dragon for a bit of target protection, but it can be any other Vanilla you want as well. And what that allows you to do is any time you link off a monster, you're able to bring it back. Another thing by keeping in mind that with your Appaloosa going here is your Arum. There's no point in making Arum because it doesn't point to something to then trigger its effect to bring it back. So that then adapts the way you want to play and adapts the route you want to go to. Whereas Saruja also gives you the ability of getting one of the cards out of your hand. And keep in mind as well, you do play the Parallel XZs. But this is just a very, very basic play of the routes that you're going to be going and the routes you can be taking. Now you can search yourself out another Chalice, but we're probably just going to search out another Vanilla as well. Now keep in mind, like I said, if Umduct had already resolved and had a Vanilla in hand already, so let's say we already had the Chalice in hand, we're already going to get 3 monsters back on the board, which then allows us to access our incredibly wide range of Link monsters in the extra deck already. So straight away, you have the access to go into IP Masquerena. You also, like I said, you had Saruja, which would give you an additional monster onto the board because he will guarantee to at least draw you 1 more card. You then, obviously, if you're going aggressive, you've got the ability for Access Code Talker. You also now have the ability for Lib because you've got the Chalice in the graveyard. And then keeping in mind, you also have the ability, should you want to try and link climb into Ib. And then by linking Ib off, she'll then bring another monster down to the board. So, in the example of Lib as well, keep in mind that Guard Dragon can bring back a monster. So, in the example of Lib, if we were to use, let's say we used Guard Dragon plus our Chosen that came down off of Umduct, you'd then go into Ib. Now, off of the back of Ib, what you have the ability to do, it is protected, which is really, really nice, but because you've got the Guard Dragon in the graveyard, you can banish this to bring a Vanilla back, which will then allow you to bring back Chosen. By bringing back Chosen, what you can do is you can then link Ib and Chosen together, and this can then make Lib, and that can then go over here, or it can go over to the other side. It's entirely up to you on where you want to go. You still have the Chalice in the graveyard, so Lib will then trigger, Ib, Lib, Tib, Sib, will then trigger to get you the World Legacy Sorrows. So you can set that as well, and all you need to do is have a co-linked monster. So that is where you'd probably put Lib here, but you're ideally going to want to try and get her off the board. Now what you have the ability to do here, if you really, really wanted to, you don't have to, but you can link these two together for a link 4, and that's going to allow you to give you instant access into an Avramax. So you've got a nice bit of protection here because your Avramax protects the Appaloosa. Appaloosa is currently on 4 negates. If this, of course, was a Saruja would then be, you'd be adding an additional monster onto the board. So it's entirely up to you. All you now need to do is create a co-linked section. And that is where the rest of the hand comes in to provide you with more co-linked potential and co-linked monsters. Also keeping in mind you still have the Ningrisu, so that if you wanted to go a Ningrisu route, you could end up with a Ningrisu draw. This is obviously Libs giving you the spin back. So it really depends on the routes that you kind of want to take. Now even if you didn't go with Lib as well, and keep in mind that by getting rid of the Lib, Lib will allow you to special summon down the monster that you searched off of Lee. So that will then give you, of course, Crowned by the World Chalice, or whatever one you searched. This still then allows you to make plays, because you can turn this into an Umduct, and just by straight away turning this into an Umduct, that gives you your instant co-linked ability, because then Umduct is pointing to Appaloosa, you've got your co-linked, you've got your negate. So straight away you've got battle protection, so all of these two have been protected from battle. You've got the Omni negate off of the counter trap there, you've got 4 negates off of Appaloosa, and then of course you've got link fodder for the next turn, and Umduct can then give you an additional normal. Now, after doing all of this, keep in mind, if you kept Venus on the board and you did open up with a Exodius, you just drop the Exodius down, put the Shine Balls back into the deck, and then you link Climb even higher, and then you start putting the you can then use Venus to bring out the Shine Balls. And that's where you're then able to go, okay, cool, I'm now going to end up with a Lib, I can go into an IP Masquerena, I'm going to end up with this board, pretty much, plus the ability of having an IP Masquerena on board. Not to mention you could have made an Ningrisu as well to get you more draws, and you'd replenish your hand size that route. But as you saw, like, kind of the route I wanted to go was get to Appaloosa as early as I could to protect from anything further. Now, if you want to see more, and I do want to show more of this deck as well, because I think there's a lot to show from test hands as well, please smash that like button. If you get the video up to at least 50 likes, like I said at the start of the video, I'll be more than happy to bring you a proper, full in-depth test hand, because this is just a basic combo of routes that can adapt and go to it. Like I said, you don't even need to go all the way straight into the link 4. You can go into Arum. You can then build up into Ningrisu draw 3. You can build up into a latter stage Appaloosa for 2, plus a Avramax, plus other monsters to kind of keep on climbing that route as well. But yes, if you want to see more, if you want to see a full test stand video for the deck, then smash that like button. That's all you got to do, guys. You subscribe to the channel, you show the appreciation by hitting that notification bell, and then by hitting that like button shows me that you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of it. With all of that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay safe, and above all else, happy dueling.